thank you guys for coming on my new podcast, video, whatever this is. I really appreciate it. So
thank you.
Before we get started, I'm just going to pretend like anybody watching this has no clue who you are or why I'm talking to you. So if you want to just get like the who you are and what you're doing out of the way real quick, then we can get down to a worthwhile chat.
All right. I begin. Yeah. I'm Gary from Flyos.
And I'm Thomas from Flyos. So Flyos is a board game company that Gary and I founded 4 years ago. And we're now on our third board game. So the first one was Kickstarting. The second one is Until the Light. And you can see them right here. And the next one is going to be Vampire the Masquerade Chapters. And the first chapter of the story we're about to explain and make play to people is going to take place in Montreal. So we did our last Kickstarter campaign in February of 2020. Right before the apocalypse. And now we're focusing on making that game a reality. So we have 25 freelance all around the world. And Gary and I are working all day, every day to make that happen. So yeah, that's us.
Well, thank you both for coming on. And Thomas, I've met you before. Gary, we've never met before. So thank you. I appreciate you coming on. So I want to talk. Oh, my pleasure. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Kickstarter that you did because, for people who are familiar with like Vampire the Masquerade and the community as a whole, a lot of books go through the Kickstarter process. And so, if you raise $60,000, $70,000 for a book, that's a pretty solid amount of money. And what did you guys end up raising for Chapters?
$1,359,211.
I can't even. That's incomprehensible. that is mind blowing. That is staggering. So, I guess I'm going to ask you what every creator probably wants to know. What's your secret? How did you raise so much excitement to get people to invest with their dollars?
Well, we've just listened to Rihanna that just keep telling her what to do. Work. So and Gary and I are very, very complementary. So everything that we do together just works because we've been best friends for I think 20 years now, something like that. And Gary's amazing. We have nickname between each other. We call ourselves Bay, so BAE, because it's a best associate ever. And he's the one. He's the one that we've been working on a different project, and it's just so fluid. So he's I'll let Gary actually talk about what he's doing and why we were able to make that Kickstarter campaign so amazing.
I agree with Thomas on the fact that both of us have a great connection, and I think this has been shown within the Kickstarter project. You asked for a secret. The secret is work, great communication, and also create the game we wanted to see. I think this is what made the thing possible because we were not fulfilling a request from someone else. We were making the game that we dreamed of. And apparently a lot of people were dreaming of the same sort of game. So it was the right time, the right moment, and the right amount of work. On my side, I'm more on the creative, graphic, the aesthetic side. But everything that is conceived in the game is a work of Thomas and I. So, every idea that you see in this game, and every game actually is discussed, is, decided. We create everything together, and then once we have our the work to do, we go on separate sides and do what needs to be done.
How long have you two gentlemen been working together, whether professionally or personally? Like, when did you guys hook up and start contributing?
4 years ago now. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of stuff together, but not economic. It was just, for friendship, we were doing a lot of stuff, obviously. But on the work part, the creative part, it's been 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of time we spent together, and because we were, friends when we were teenagers, when we were here in France or here in Canada, that built a lot of trust. So I think one of the main reason that we were able to be so resilient over the time in the project, and why we were able to make Vampire the Masquerade Chapters successful in the Kickstarter campaign, is because we can close our eyes and trust the other one, because we had so much story, so much experience together, and there is no amount of work that is sustainable when you work on a Kickstarter campaign, and you need a team, you need people you can trust, and that was the base foundation of Flyos, for sure.
So how did you guys end up hooking up with one another?
Oh shit!
And that's I was 14 years old. I was about to get 15, and I was moving out of Paris and coming in the countryside, suburban, kind of close to Disney Village, Disney and stuff in France, but close to Paris, but not Paris, basically. And this 17-year-old dude, cool dude, was skating, and I was like, "Dude, you do some skateboard? I do as well." And he told me, "Yeah, we gotta see and do some flips on the spot." And I was like, he used the word spot in French, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do this." I didn't know what spot was, so I just followed the group, and at some point. We're a big group of people, and you know how our teenager years goes by. Some people get in, some people go out, and a lot of stories, a lot of ups and downs. But at the end of it, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun, and at some point, I was close in France. There was nothing that I wanted to do, and this guy called me and said, "Dude, take a year vacation. Go come and see North America." All right, let's do this. And I stayed.
That sounds it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it began with skateboarding, but it really moved on role-playing games. Yeah. This is something that we did for many years. We played almost every weekend, like Friday night, Saturday night. Every weekend we played RPGs, and I think this is something that developed our creativity, our experience. We have like souvenirs of stories that happened like in San Francisco, but we never been to San Francisco. I mean,
right.
I've been there for vacation like long time after. But when we were teenagers, it was like, okay, we don't know the city, but we feel like we know the city because some of our campaigns, happen in that sort of city. So
yeah, this
sort of, friendship spirit is now something that we cultivate, and we harvest this in our games now.
So another question for you guys, as far as Montreal is concerned, now Montreal is the focal point of Chapters. It's where the game takes place. Did you move to Montreal to explore that city, or were you already living in Montreal and then you were like, hey, let's focus on the story of this city?
No, we've been living in Montreal for the last 15 years. Gary, 11, 12 years for me now. And no, we love that. We love that city. Because we're French immigrants, you take some stuff of your own culture and you let others things. And Montreal is this perfect mix where you are North American, but we can have our French roots, we can have our French language, and you are in a very welcoming community, welcoming people, very gentle, very passionate too. And we felt at home without the stress of the French countryside. So it was the perfect mix. And in terms of I don't know, career-wise, there is much more opportunity. So the city treat us well. So we're trying to treat her well as well.
It actually is a very good question, because we made Montreal for the first chapter, but we don't know yet which city is going to be for the next one. It will not be Montreal for sure with the second chapter, if there's a second chapter. It won't happen in Montreal. But one thing is for sure is if we do another city, if we develop another scenario somewhere else, or another game that has this big pack of narrative, we'll definitely go there, hire, guides, historians eventually, writers that do their job, making research about the city, because, there's a lot of, tropes, sensitivity, a lot of things, that needs to be very accurate when you work on a city, because we treat cities exactly as if they were characters. So we need to be very cautious with that. And this is something that we love to do. I mean, it's being very precise, make credible worlds. Yeah. So we know Montreal by heart. I mean, this guy, my BAE, he walks like for 4 hours per day almost, to discover the city and knows every sort of, every pieces of it. So it's really cool because we have a lot of references, and this is something that we actually love.
Yeah, that's a very interesting aspect of sort of a modern role-playing game that takes place within the context of the world that we live in. If you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, you're only beholden to your imagination. But when you're actually walking around a city and you're like, wait a minute, this city doesn't have a subway. Why is it in this book? That's a weird pitfall that you can accidentally fall into. But at the same time, you can play a game, whether it's a video game or a tabletop role-playing game, and almost feel like you know a city, even though you've never been there. It's weird to hear people talk about Chicago, and I live in Chicago. I'm from here, but I don't there's so much stuff I don't know. And I open a book and I go, oh, that's real. I should go check that out. The next question, the real big question, I'm sure I've asked you before, Thomas, but how did you guys get into Vampire the Masquerade? We all probably started tabletop role playing when we were very young, but Vampire the Masquerade is it's very different than the traditional. So what brought you to, besides skateboarding, and I'm sure that played a part in it.
That guy is the storyteller. I'm the main player of our campaign for the last 15 years. And I'm the lore master. So one day we were playing, I think it was Warhammer. Mm-hmm. In France, people were more playing Warhammer than D&D for a reason. And I went into summer vacation in Corsica, and I come back, and our best friend, our third best friend and Gary were already playing VTM, and I would just jump into it. So I had a lot to jump back to try to get them back. So I just take the book and just read it. And I've been doing that ever since, every month for the last 17 years now. And it is different. And that's what that book, that game changed my life in so many ways, because I was not very shy, but the way you are playing a character forces you to see what defines the character, what defines your skills, what defines your psychology. And when you start thinking about this, you start saying, wait a minute, I'm also a character. Can I expand? Can I be something different? And it's in your teenager years where you are here exploring, discovering new topics, things. And that gave us a step to see, wait a minute, I can see the world differently. I don't have to stay and remain in the mainframe. And that's what tabletop RPG was really helpful. And Gary, I'm sure, had other cues to say about this, because he was a storyteller. When I say most of the time, it's 99% of the time. So yes,
99.9. But the funny thing is that I was the storyteller of a player who knew more about the game than myself. So whenever I'm trying to say, okay, let's roll D10 and do this, it's like, the official rule is that, actually. I'm like, shut up, I'm the dungeon master now. Okay? Do what I say. So it's funny because, he knows every detail of especially Vampire the Masquerade. And it's pretty fun because I was more on the, creating characters for their personality, in terms of, story, what the story we're building. And he has a great knowledge of all the gears of Vampire, all the things that make this world super cohesive. Mm-hmm. And it's really fun, working on such a board game with this sort of background is just incredible. We spend 2 weeks ago, we've been in a cabin north Montreal, and we do this once or twice a year, just to be 100% dedicated to work. And it's not only work. I mean, it's just about getting ideas and pushing things forward. And we spent 1 week, and it just burned in like it was a blink. It's so many ideas, so much creativity. It was really, really cool. So yeah, I mean, all this passed. To go back to your question, we discovered Vampire the Masquerade, and it's sealed the relationship for sure.
So in the course of creating this game and writing plots for it and truly knowing a lot about the game, just to ask personal opinion, because it's something I've been kind of thinking about lately, and I've been doing a lot of writing around this, but how important is Metaplot to the product that you create, and how much license do you feel that you have to sort of change it or alter it going forward? Has that been an issue for you in determining your stories?
So the Metaplot is very important because it has to be cohesive. Because we're buying the right of a license for a specific media, you cannot go over and beyond and create something that will be to the detriment of other licenses and the license in itself. So this is where you can work. On this part, this is where you belong. Doesn't mean that you cannot cross paths with all licenses and impact the Metaplot. And we did. You're gonna have to play the game to realize that, but we did change the Metaplot of Vampire the Masquerade Chapters in very specific explanation and cues and Easter egg and stuff. But yes, you have liberty to, if you are talented and you want to make something that is cohesive, that goes with the actual Metaplot. Yes, Paradox and White Wolf, and they've been very helpful in that regard. And every single time we're trying to come with new ideas, they examine it with great care. And when you have some very good ideas that just like, okay, that makes so much sense why we've done that, and now we can do this. Sometimes it takes a sentence just to be approved.
Yeah,
and that's where we love working with Paradox and White Wolf, because we have a control area we can work on, and we have liberty to be creative and to help things rise as well.
Sure. And we love the license so much that we don't want to do anything, dumb about it. We don't want to create entities that does not even exist, that never been talked about. We just want to be another brick in that, super world. But they changed. Like in V5, many things move from V20 to something. You're building something from the ground up, which is good because there's plenty of room to take things from the past and rebuild it. And this is very, very creative as well. And as Thomas said, it's really true. They're super open to great ideas. But, there's a train moving on their side. So we have to gravitate around this train just to make sure we're not too many steps ahead, because, we have ideas maybe for the 5 next years,
right,
and things that have not been discussed yet. They agree that the ideas are great, but they're like, okay, guys, there's too many things moving on. Just wait a little. This can be done, but just wait a little. So, things for the game, things for the future. It's good. They have a great spirit.
So let's talk real quick about the big elephant outside of your room. You guys have a Kickstarter in February, and then basically all hell breaks loose. How did that alter your plans? How did that change your progress? And basically just once the Kickstarter's up, what did you guys do? Oh,
okay. So yeah, this one is it's a tricky question. We have the answers. We've been prepared to this campaign. We worked on it for a full year, and the idea was to be as credible as we could before the campaign. So once we go live, we have a precise idea of what this game is about. But we were not 100% done on gameplay, on designs, on art direction. Even we had a great idea. I mean, if you you browse the Kickstarter page, you see that there's an ambience, there's things like that are pretty great. The story was almost done. We had our the storyline but we had everything to be done. So the day we finished our campaign, we started working on every piece of material for the game, whether it's rules, and I mean we're still finalizing the rules. Yeah, disclaimer: we are the final alpha rules are coming like in a couple of days. We just finished the scenario number 1, like in 2 days. This will be 100% done in terms of visuals, in terms of writing, in terms of so it takes a lot of time. But this is all the preparation before the big crunch of production, because we have like over 60 scenarios to write. We have like miniatures. We have like so many things to do. And this guy here is preparing something we talked about it in the car, and he has a strategy because, when you have it, I'll let Thomas talk about it, but when you have a business like this, you have to be creative to make a fun game, for sure. You have to be creative to make a great story, but you also have to sell your game.
Right.
So we are currently working on strategy to have a pre-order campaign. And this huge mountain of work is actually, we're climbing this mountain.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's huge, and we were prepared because that was our third Kickstarter campaign. So the first one was a surprise. The second was a lesson. And because we try to avoid repeating the same mistake, we've made sure to understand how everything was working to our advantage. And we were very transparent, very honest on everything. And even when people were just saying, we need to see more gameplays, guys, this is a Kickstarter. It's supposed to kickstart project.
Right.
So, and we know that the influence in the industry of the big guys that come here and put it as a pre-order are pretty much retail kind of a shop. It's cool, but we need the money up front to do it. And this is what we're going to do. And we under-promise and over-deliver. We gave everything we had. And by that, I mean everything, all the savings, all the 401k, everything on the line. Gary and I have been working 6 months unpaid full-time on this in the last year. But 6 months for this project, but 2 years and a half before that on the rest of this. So we were full-time and full-time, plus family, friends, wife, girlfriends, all that stuff. So we knew how to make it. And the main and important thing to understand is you will not succeed right away. This will take time for the people that take some notes. Your only goal is to survive, to learn, and then you'll be ready. And we went all in, no plan B. And when we received the money, the whole campaign was going that direction. So we knew we were about, and we were betting on how much the campaign would be doing. So we knew, and we were hoping, and we're seeing the campaign goes on. So when everything started, COVID-19 started right away. So we were supposed to get in vacation, and we couldn't. So, all right, let's not get pissed about that. Let's just crunch it. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
Not taking any vacation for the last year and a half.
Just one last thing about because your question was about the after Kickstarter as well.
Yeah.
We are working so hard now because we want to avoid any late delivery, because this is like it's so usual in Kickstarter ecosystem that there's late deliveries. We want to at least reduce it to the minimum late if we have some, but we're doing everything we can to have none. We promised a year and 2 months, like a year and a quarter for final delivery, and we just have this time to finalize everything. And there's so much to do, and 4 languages as well, because it's not only English. Yeah. I see.
Don't even start that discussion. Don't even start that discussion.
It has to be a massive undertaking.
We will do it. I mean, we have already found the translators. We have a solid structure, so we can, finish a scenario, translate it, finish a scenario, get it approved, translate it, and stuff like that. So this will be done, but we'll be, probably not do that for the next campaign.
I was going to say not to like start any kind of conversation, but what languages did you end up getting it translated? What languages is it going to be available in?
English, French, Spanish, German.
Yeah, I mean that hits a lot of bases right there. That's probably part of the reason why it did so well, because most of these books, most of like the Vampire the Masquerade material, it comes out in English and then it's available in English for however long, and then they have to find somebody to translate it or some company to license it and release it in another country. This coming out in those languages, I think that's a really smart consideration on your parts.
We'll see, because for now we don't know how many people ordered a translated version, because we have not opened the products. Exactly.
The pledge manager is not going to open as the other Kickstarter company do, when they just try to leverage a little bit more money by just selling accessories and just pump up the average backer value. Thing is, because we know that the COVID were happening at the end of it, we're just like, there is no way we're going to charge people the shipping fees right now, a year in advance, when we don't have the price of the 2021, when we're going to be delivering. Because if things like the USPS, for example, if it closes, the price of the delivery for Kickstarter is going to get so high so quick that if we overcharge, if we undercharge about $20 and we charge someone 25 and then it goes to 45, we did.
Yep. Yeah.
So we cannot take that risk. And because we have that, we're preparing a product campaign with more stuff coming up, just to make sure that people can actually play the last and final gameplay of the first scenario. But also the 3 prologue that push the multiplayer combat, the investigation, and the dialogue. And this is supposed, and that's our strategy, to be available in the 4 languages for free on Tabletopia. So this is what you can play. This is the rules. Give us feedback to improve it over time, because rules are a living nightmare. And play it, subscribe to the newsletter, and if you like it, when it's going to open the pre-order campaign around February 2021, it's going to be available for you to buy it. A little bit more expensive, because we have to acknowledge the fact that Kickstarter backer were the one helping us, so that's the exclusive Kickstarter. But they're going to be available for additional price if players and new backers wish to get it. And we are also preparing a surprise that I think we're ready to tease a little bit. Gary, would you like to give us the honor?
I will. We have something great for pre-orders. As we said earlier, Thomas is preparing something awesome for the marketing campaign, the communication around this pre-order. And we developed a new character for the pre-order campaign, and it's the Ekata character.
Nice.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a couple of questions related to. I'll start with you, Gary. What was your favorite thing so far to work on? Just like from the perspective of a fan, like not like what's the coolest thing you're going to present, but like what's the thing that you were like, I did that.
Oh man, this is so complicated to answer this. Okay. There's actually 2 things, because there's not just one number one. There's 2 things, and they're pretty much equal. The very first thing I was like the more excited about is, remember the day when I talked with Thomas about the idea, saying, okay, you know what? We do board games. Why not make a board game in the world of Empire? Imagine how cool that can be. He was like, oh, yeah, this is awesome. So the day we had the official answer from the guys at Paradox Interactive, I was just, oh my God, this is happening for real. This was one of the biggest things. And the other one was, to start working on the first visual we received. And it actually is the 2 characters, the Toreador character and the Nosferatu character. I was just like, oh my God, okay, we are making a real story about it. This is just crazy good.
Yeah.
And I was just, wow. That was my best souvenir about the fabrication of the game.
Thomas?
I'd say it's the first meeting I had with a donator here. We were we were in the red at Flyos at this moment, and Gary surprised me about a meeting that we could have if we went to Indianapolis, and I just decided to go, and so I went, but we couldn't afford to go there together, so I had to go there. But I'm a salesman, so I know how to sell things, and I know the lore of it. So I go there, and we use the same momentum to sell some boxes of Until the Light Intuition and to go to Asmodee for the first time. And when I go there, I'm not appointed. I don't have any appointment. I have nothing. And I just walk by, knock on the door, try to find a meeting, and I make them laugh. So I go back. And then the next morning, things get crazy, and I just have 5 minutes to explain how and why these two games are available. Long story short, they buy 500 of both and that saves our ass. And then I go to the meeting to see Donné Devere, and I'm a little bit early, like 10 minutes, because this is so important and I'm so excited. And I was supposed to have 30 minutes of meeting with Donné to explain and what we had in mind, who we are. And that meeting actually lasted an hour and 40 minutes. And we were just not talking about the project, just geeking out of plans on Amici Noctis, on all the powers, on everything that we played. And at the end of it, she was just like, okay, what's your game? I know you know the lore now. And when we pitched it, the same sentence that Gary told me when we're coming back from this cottage, say, imagine a tabletop RPG with no game master required. Scenarios, it's a whole campaign. You can play alone, you can play with 2 people, you can play with 4. And her mind just exploded like mine did at this time. And that was the first thing that just made me realize, okay, we're on the good thing. And the second one was the story. When Gary and I just spent a whole week in a cottage just to work on this story, just to implement it with everything that we know from it, from Montreal, what we wanted to share, and also the Montreal Biennial from 1999. And when we finished everything and we presented it to Paradox, usually they take a month to validate anything. And when we said that story, we just caught our mic just waiting. And for the next 5 seconds, nothing, not a single word. And at the end of it, Karim just said, approved. And that was just a whole 3 months of work, boom, in 5-second tension. Yeah. And I had chills, like I had goosebumps, everything. And yeah, this is happening. This is for real. And that was an amazing feeling for sure.
The other question I had, and I don't know if these are questions you can answer, but when I talked to you last in February, I heard about 2 things. One was potentially a source book, and the other one was something having to do with an ancient tome. Are either of these things something you can talk about or even know anything more about?
Unfortunately, we cannot say anything. Just rumors that things are... keep walking, keep going forward. And we are very eager to celebrate and to announce very soon something. Well, actually 2 things. Well, maybe 3 things. But for now, there is nothing that we can say per se, because there is a timeline that we need to acknowledge in terms of announcement, because those things are big. Those things are in the continuity of what we want to do.
What seems to be next? What's on the horizon?
I can answer partially your question, actually. I mean, and Thomas almost, told it. I mean, we have a continuity. We changed our branding recently. Maybe some of you saw that. We went from like a pretty basic logo, and we changed our our identity. We have like a new brand and stuff, and we also focused on our. I think it's what something that defines us pretty well is we make narrative games. We make stories. Every game that we create is not only a mechanic; it's supported by a whole world, a whole set of characters, of personality, of background. Even if you go back to our very first game, Kiwetin, had this sort of little spirits in forest, and we had some sort of language and runes and stuff. It's a tiny world, but still a world. And this is something that I think we are good at and something that we love to do. So now we are working on a license from Paradox Interactive. So we have Vampire. This world has other licenses. So,
yeah,
there's probably a next chapter. We cannot talk about it yet, but why not? We have chapters because it's the first chapter, so maybe another chapter. We need to talk about it because we don't have any story yet. And our own creation, because it's really great because we love Vampire, but we also have many things that we'd like to create on our own. Stories that we want to talk that have no fangs related. And I think we can make something great about it. But the system, the way we tell stories through this sort of games is something that will live on a long-term base.
It's the same recipe. It's the same ingredients, the same commitment and quality, but for a different meal and a different recipe. But the goal is to stay cohesive and to keep loving and doing what we're doing. And that's exactly why we're pushing everything down the line and putting so much effort into it, because we don't feel it's a lot of effort. Yes, it's a lot of work, and those are crazy hours. You can believe us on that. But it's our dream job. Every single day we work. I am working with my best friend on the best license I've spent thousands of hours on, creating a board game. We're successful about it. People want to work with us, and we keep growing. And we don't compromise on quality or on our ethics. That's amazing. That's amazing. And we know we're lucky. We know we're lucky.
Well, I definitely appreciate both of you guys and the time and effort that you've put in, because like I said, everything that I've seen so far, both while I have not played the game, obviously, I have seen the actual physical product from the game in my hand. I've seen both of your just overall excitement for it, and I just couldn't be happier about it. You get done, you're done with the vampire thing, and for me, a big part of doing this podcast is exploring things that are outside of just like the world of darkness. Just like I'm a gamer. I love games. So, as much as I'm a total fanboy of Vampire, there's other stuff out there that I love. If you had your pick of, we'll just say any game license, whether it's, Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, what would be that other, dream that you'd go, man, I would really love to sit down and make a board game out of that property?
It's funny because we won't agree on that, and that's what's cool. We have different tastes.
Yeah.
On my side, one of the license I would be crazy happy to work on. There's two licenses I really love. I'm a big fan of the Fallout series. I think there's room to make something so great because of the RPG system. I really love this saga. And on the book side, the Foundation of Asimov. Something futuristic, something science fiction based, especially the Foundation saga. I would be crazy in love about this. So yeah, this is my personal taste, but I'm curious to hear what Thomas has prepared. I have some ideas.
Well, you just said Foundation, so first of all, F you, because I was about to say that. And there is another one I think that is close to my personal growth as well. It's World of Warcraft for sure. There's a lot of lore that I've also devoured for. I was in a life, like a real no life that actually had a first skill on Burning Crusade, and we're in competition. It's hardcore game guild, And yes, I was as passionate about it that anything else in the geek related world. Yes, I love it. And Foundation is one of the best Asimov book and the best book I've read on science fiction. So this is something very close to the dystopian world of Fallout that I also very much like. And Foundation that has another theme that is very, very interesting. So I would just add it to the mix.
What is your choice, Nathan? Because you asked us what would be the license we'd love to work on, but I'm curious about your...
yours. So that's a little bit hard too. But I think this is just gonna be the dorkiest thing ever. Like one of my favorite properties of all time. It goes back to being a teenager in the late '90s, and that's The Matrix. Like I love The Matrix. I love all of the sort of weird sci-fi. Is this real? Is this not? Kind of stuff that goes into it. And I think that would be a really cool. I think it would be a really cool, just like RPG, if somebody got real fancy and wanted to just turn it into an RPG. Because it used to be they had a PC MMO, and that was whatever. But I played that when I was 19, 20 years old. Yeah, it would probably need to be updated a little bit because we're not all still wearing pleather. And I think Shadowrun, like a Shadowrun, a board game that takes that run and the model of sort of the very easily contained mission and sort of turning that into like a quest game. I think that would be really cool, and I think it would help people because that's another game that has just so much metaplot and so much history. It's just like. I feel like Shadowrun right now is kind of just hanging out underground. It's not as popular, I think, as it could be. And
Cyberpunk is not doing a great for this license too.
Favor, yeah. Cyberpunk it's blooming so hard, it's overshadowing the rest of it. I cannot wait to play that game.
Yeah. Well, and that game looks amazing, and Bloodlines 2 looks amazing. And my hope is that game ends up being everything that the original release wasn't, where the original release was kind of like, it was under the radar. Only like 80,000 people bought it. It's a great cult game, but it didn't do anything for the brand at the time of its launch. And I just hope that it does everything that it should. So yeah, those are mine. I think neglected that could be brought back.
Nice, great selection.
So, do you guys, now that you're working 10, 12, however many hour days writing and creating and making this game, 20-hour days, whatever it is, do you have the opportunity to actually just play or run a game?
Yeah. We play to other World of Darkness licenses, just to extend the the possibilities, how we create bridges between all worlds, because they're supposed to be. Especially there's a V5 of Vampire, but no V5 for other licenses. So it's pretty fun to see how we got stuck in the old versions of other games.
Yeah,
how our heart was so deeply anchored in the V20, and we played the whole campaign in V5. All the story of chapters obviously is V5, the new version, and we play it. I mean, we still continue to grow our characters inside that world. It's always so much fun, so we continue playing.
So
more analysis. When we do something, we try new things. We try, I can give you like a detail. I tried something last time. I recorded my voice in sort of an app that changed your voice. So I had to create multiple layers of answers because I don't know what these guys will ask me, the storyteller question. So I had to have multiple answers and try this effect just to see is that creating a great approach to the players. So we test things, But it's still
spoilers. It did. It was amazing.
So last question, and then I'll let you guys get back to it. I'm sure you're very busy and have a lot to do. You'd mentioned that you're playing a lot of other World of Darkness licenses, and, everybody knows, Vampire, Werewolf, Mage. What is your favorite, more obscure World of Darkness license? Like, when I say obscure, I mean, like, we'll consider Wraith. Wraith is a little bit more obscure.
Yeah.
Changeling is a little bit more obscure, but then you have like Demon the Fallen, you have Hunter.
Demon the Fallen. Demon the Fallen is something I've geeked on for sure. And it's an amazing book, especially when we needed to have a look and understand what was a Decani, what meta-attacks in VTM Chapters Montreal was. So that's something that was very interesting. Recently, we actually, like a year ago, we never played D&D. So I found a group that was playing D&D because we went all around the weird and unconventional license, but I never played D&D, and you cannot miss it. So we started a group with friends, and I've recently actually started my first storytelling campaign. So I'm going from this side to the other one now. So, but yes, Demon the Fallen is something that's very, very interesting for sure.
I will not be that creative. Sorry. For me, it's a werewolf. I stick to werewolf on that side because there's, all the worm, all the Umbra sort of enemies that you can create is like, there's, the sky is the limit stuff, answer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much thing you can do in a limitless way that I don't need anything else. I mean, if I need a changeling, I can add it to werewolf. Yeah. If I need a demon, I can add it to werewolf and have something that is more connected to nature. I'm a storyteller because every time I create a character I always make the same character. It's like when I play Skyrim game or sort of, that sort of thing, I always finish with an archer, It's, I mean, every time I finish with an archer. So
I resemble that.
Yeah. So it's easier for me, to create worlds because I can be a little bit like have some stereotypes, which makes the character a bit more,
relatable.
Relatable. We can have like more connection to this sort of, characters. And in the world of werewolf, the great thing is that there's a lot of, I think for me, it's more like a pro game than Vampire. Vampire is easier for, new sort of players, for beginners, and for advanced, obviously. But werewolf, for me, there's a gap. I mean, it's like it's a pro version of such a world, such big possibilities.
Yeah,
and I really like it.
Well, it's interesting. Werewolf to me too has always been kind of like, I don't want to say like a hero's game, but like you're playing werewolves, you're fighting against a tremendous evil, but there's so much multifaceted nuance to what that heroism is that, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think Vampire is a gateway to the world of darkness, and that makes sense. It's like the most accessible, but definitely Werewolf is as political as Vampire is, but even more so because you have, all of these different tribes that have all their different opinions. So yeah, Werewolf is a great game, and it's a game that I think unfortunately plays second fiddle to Vampire a lot, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes next with that, with the 5th edition. So yeah.
So do we.
Awesome. Where can we find your stuff? Where can we find Flyos? Where can we find Chapters?
So the most accessible is on Facebook, Flyos page, of course. We also have a dedicated Vampire the Masquerade Chapters board game group where we accept newcomers, where we can give some spoilers, some teasers before we do it on the update on the Kickstarter campaign. The Kickstarter campaign has all the information about the game, some videos, some character development, but also the pre-order reminder where you can subscribe to our newsletter to be notified when we are opening the pre-order campaign. So you have a last chance to get the game right before the production, because after that, it might not be available retail-wise. So yeah, that's the last call. Ding, 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 last call.
Thank you for watching 2D10. You can check out more of my stuff on utilitymuffinlabs.com. You can check out the 2D10 podcast on the same website, or you can go to 2d10.com, but they take you to the same place. Check us out on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Discord, all of which will be linked down below. I'll have new videos out every week. Thank you again for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, all that, and we'll see you next week.